energy and sounded like Handel?
Gary and Shannon. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Kfi.
How about somebody speak for the normal people? How about somebody tell the truth? Normal people don't want mental patients, drug addicts, and pedophiles sleeping in cars in front of their kids' schools. Why can't anyone say that out loud?
John and Ken. Weekdays 2 to 6 on Kfi. Kfi. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Public transportation attacks. I'm Andrew Caravella from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Cops in L.A. are looking for a guy who assaulted 3 people at the Metro B-Line station in Hollywood. This happened around 5 Friday evening. A 5-year-old girl and 2 adults had cuts on their bodies when paramedics arrived. The guy who assaulted the people ran off onto Hollywood Boulevard. The first U.S. Navy ship named for a gay person will be christened later today in San Diego in honor of Harvey Milk. International Imperial Court System Queen Mother 1, Nicole Murray Ramirez, says Milk was a lieutenant when he was kicked out of the Navy for being gay.
Harvey Milk received a dishonorable discharge, and thank goodness the family refused to change it to remind people about these witch hunts and how LGBT people were drummed out of the military.
Murray Ramirez says the campaign took hundreds of thousands of letters and started 10 years ago when Don't Hotel was repealed. Milk is considered the first openly gay elected official in the country. He was a San Francisco supervisor when he was assassinated in 1978 by a colleague. An investigation has found at least 18 billionaires and 250 other super rich Americans got COVID-19 relief stimulus checks. ProPublica says one of the guys who got a check was George Soros, who's worth an estimated $8.6 billion. His people say he has returned the money. The billionaires were able to get the COVID relief checks because the CARES Act that authorized the financial help was tied to income, not wealth. So if anyone reported a loss on their taxes, they qualified. The 4 astronauts of NASA and SpaceX's Crew 3 mission won't get off the ground until Monday night at the earliest. Bad weather in Florida has postponed the mission again. The astronauts were supposed to leave from NASA's Kennedy Space Center aboard a Crew Dragon this weekend. Rain and wind is in the forecast. The mission is now scheduled to depart on Monday at 6:51 p.m. Pacific time. And the House has voted on an infrastructure bill. The bill will help repair highways, transit systems, and rail programs for the Department of Transportation. The vote was 228 to 206. 218 was needed to pass. The $1.2 trillion measure has already passed the Senate. It now goes to President Biden to be signed. Southland weather, fog throughout the morning with low visibility. The afternoon will clear with highs in the upper 60s at the beaches, 70s for Metro LAOC. The valleys will see upper 70s and low 80s for the IE. Right now, Rosemead 55, Palmdale 57, Anaheim 56, Laguna Beach 58 degrees. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Andrew Caravella.
Crash downtown L.A. on the northbound side of the 110 at 3rd Street. Had all lanes blocked. They've reopened the left lane. The rest of the lanes remain shut down here at this time, but you are seeing delays from about 6th Street. Downtown L.A. as well on the 101 freeway. All lanes closed by Caltrans all weekend long. Northbound side of the 101 closed from the 5 to 4th Street until around 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Southbound side of the 101 closed between the 10 and the 5 until around 6 o'clock Sunday morning. You can take the 5 or the 110 freeway instead. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Robert Dubucky. Contractor license 1047781.
Kenny, it's Ken. What's the deal with the flashlight? What do you mean? Like on our billboards and on our trucks and stuff. That kid with the flashlight is me, Zach. Explain that to me. My dad was a big-time expert. So back when I was in grade school, he would always take me with him on repair calls at night. Made you hold the flashlight, didn't he? Yeah, and he would always explain to me how he diagnosed the problem. That's a good dad, that's what that is. And then he would show me the right way to fix it, not the easy way. So that flashlight is a symbol, huh? That flashlight says an expert will always see the problem that the other guys can't see. That's why you make sure all our guys are experts. Yeah, and when you repair things the right way, not the easy way, you're like that beam of light. Always doing the right thing for the customer. That's what the flashlight means, Zach. Thanks for telling me, Ken. Gettle. G-O-E-T-T-L. We know our business, and we know it well.
Peace, y'all. This is Common, and I'm passionate about helping the black community learn about lung cancer, a disease that disproportionately affects us, which is why I'm here with Stand Up to Cancer, to bring you the facts. In the United States, over 25,000 black men and women are diagnosed with lung cancer each year. Fact, our community is more likely to develop advanced lung cancer than any other racial or ethnic group. Fact, lack of access to health care, lack of clear resources for health, and mistrust in the medical system are not helping us beat this. Fact, lung cancer continues to be the leading cause of cancer deaths among black men and women. But there is a way for us to take back control of our health and change things. Learn all that you can about you or a loved one's diagnosis and treatment options. Get more information on lung cancer, screening, and clinical trials by visiting standuptocancer.org/lung cancer. Together we can bring about real change. Because fact, change is possible, and it starts with you.
The Delta variant is making COVID-19 spread faster and more easily. Variants can be more contagious, aggressive, and deadly. But we know vaccines work. Vaccinated Californians have greater protection against serious illness, hospitalization, and death. We can help stop the spread and end this pandemic. Get vaccinated and wear a mask when it can protect you and others. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO fixed over 40 million transmissions, and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
And AMCO offers payment plan options for almost any credit situation. So it's easier than ever to fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO, KFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk. I come to the cab and then I settle down inside. He asked me if I'd seen a road with so much dust and sand. I said, listen, I've traveled every road in this here land. Well, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Wheeler, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, Buffalo, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tucapilla, Barranquilla, Abigail. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I went to Boston, Charleston, Louisiana, Washington, Houston, Kingston, Tampa, Monterey, Faraday, Santa Fe, California, Glen Rock, Bass Rock, Little Rock, Tuscaloosa, Tennessee, Tennessee, Chicopee, Spirit Lake, Grand Lake, Devil Lake, Crater Lake, Creek Lake. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man.
To talk to Ian Punnett, call the Wildcard line at 818-501-4109. The first-time caller line is 818-501-4721. To talk toll-free from east of the Rockies, call 800-825-5033. From west of the Rockies toll-free, call 800-618-8255. This is Coast to Coast AM with Ian Punnett.
That should be the unofficial theme of Open Line. I've been everywhere. Love the LA Rat version of that. My second favorite LA band to Pistol Beauty. Who rocks? All right, so we'll go to Open Lines here coming up. Some people have been hanging on from the discussions we were having with Ann Williams. Again, that book is Lost Cities and Ancient Tombs. A couple of conversations started toward the end, and I just wanted to be clear, because I always find that sort of stuff interesting, but I can't look it up while we're talking, but I perused some articles afterward. I could not find any legitimate critical claim that there was no such city as Nazareth. I think what the caller was mistaken, and I could be wrong, is that there are many places called Nazareth. It's not that there was no Nazareth, it's just that Jesus of Nazareth might be referring to several different locations. There is one in Lower Galilee, the region of Galilee. And there was an old Nazareth, which is still being excavated. But then there was also another place called Nazareth that could have been in an entirely different location. And that this is what scholars have debated. There is also kind of a minority view that being a Nazarene doesn't refer to a place, but as a kind of occupation.
Right,
that in fact, when they referred to Jesus of Nazareth, it was a corruption of a Greek reference, perhaps Aramaic, that spoke to a priestly class. That Jesus of Nazareth was actually Jesus of a priestly class. That would be interesting if that turned out to be true. Somehow I doubt it, but I don't know. And the reason I say that is because there was a definite separation between the priestly class and the Pharisaic class, the rabbis. The rabbis were the ones who you could become a rabbi. You couldn't become part of the priestly class. You were either born to it or you weren't. It would kind of change everything if that's what it turned out to be. Although it could explain the jealousy of the Sadducees. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with the idea of what Pharisee means. They think of it as being something other than what Jesus was, which was, at least we believe, to be a rabbi. He's referred to as Abba, Father, and as a rabbi, as a teacher. And so as a Rebbe, that's why he would have been hanging out with all of those Pharisees. All of those stories about him and Pharisees having dinner together. Well, that's why. They were, those were his peeps. He just was showing them up all the time, according to the Christian New Testament. So if that's informative, I don't know. As for the Saint Brendan that the caller referred to, the Irish monk, there's very little physical evidence of any sort of that. There's testimony, he claims, about having made it to a new world in a boat. And there are fantastic stories. It's really a very interesting yarn. I've read about this or seen it referenced in other books. But one of the things that kind of hurts him is he talks about things that are so fantastic that it doesn't make the rest of the account of having made it to a new world in a boat at a time when it would have just been him, a monk in a boat, rowing to the new world in the North Atlantic seems a little unlikely, especially when even though he was a skilled voyager, he talks about like having communion on the back of a whale. Maybe. But there are lots of biblical references in his account, and there is one established, although disputed, sign that an early Celtic speaker made it to the shores of Virginia. Although, like I said, that there's a lot of contention that that language was in fact not Celtic, but a misunderstanding of the runes that were left there. Who knows? At least not for now. But again, kind of the cool thing about what Ann Williams was talking about, and if you didn't catch it, I hope you do, is that she was saying a good archaeologist never says never. So, who knows? 10 years from now, we could be having a show on Coast to Coast. And by that point, I believe the show will be just beamed directly into your brain, maybe whether you like it or not. And the show will be about, remember 10 years ago when we were talking about this as being unlikely? Well, it turns out to be true. So stay tuned, or we'll tune you in, whether you like it or not, if that technology ever develops. It's kind of the cool thing, is we do have a bit of a time machine going. If you go online, you can sign up and become a Coast Insider, and you can go back and listen to shows from 10 years ago and find out the latest in the Art Bell Vault. Find out more at coasttocoastam.com. I believe the lovely Gina has already lined up calls for open lines. Remember, Gina, and all you Gina-philes out there who love to talk to Gina, there's no lying to Gina. It's not a mortal sin in the Catholic Church, but I believe it's venial. So don't tell her you're going to talk about something else and then get on the air and start going political or something like that, because that's not where we are. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. We'll do open lines next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett.
Dealing with car repairs can feel like a lose-lose situation. You lose your money and your time, and if you don't have the right coverage, just one repair could bleed you dry. Ever since I called CarShield, I'm not worried about expensive repairs anymore. CarShield administrators handle the paperwork and expensive payments, so I don't have to. It's a win-win. Seriously, CarShield could save you thousands. I get to pick my favorite mechanic to do the work, and CarShield's administrators take care of the rest. It's like they're my own personal team of auto repair problem solvers. Plans from CarShield even provide roadside assistance, rental coverage, and trip reimbursement, all at no additional charge. Whether your car has 5,000 miles or 150,000 miles, CarShield has monthly coverage options to fit your budget. Get coverage today and see why CarShield cars go farther. Visit carshield.com/Nori to save 10%. That's carshield.com/Nori. A deductible. They apply.
First date, second date, 333rd date. Whatever the number, when the moment comes, you need to be ready. Roman ready. Being Roman ready means you have the confidence and the control to perform when the moment comes. Go to Get and connect with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. If appropriate, they can prescribe ED treatment to help you be Roman ready. Visit today, and if you prescribe, get $15 off your first month of ED treatment.
There's confusion about how to protect yourself from COVID, but one thing is for sure. Whether or not you're vaccinated, you need an accurate thermometer. Contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever, the leading sign of COVID and the flu. Only the estrogen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant, and don't rely on non-contact thermometers. They have no scientific studies behind them and can mix a fever that might mean COVID. Learn more at exogen.com.
So we go to open lines on Coast to Coast AM. We'll start first on the first-time caller line. Daniel is in Edgerton, Wisconsin. Daniel?
Hey there.
Hey there.
Yeah, I was hoping to call in and talk to Ann Williams, but unfortunately I didn't call in in time. But your screener said you might be interested in the topic.
I am. Go ahead.
Giants of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Do you know about this?
Yeah, I've done a few shows on that. Yep.
Okay, yeah, because I live in the Midwest, and any time that they're building a new road and they run into something, that whole thing gets covered up, and the state comes in and they scoop everything away and take it off.
Okay, wait a second. I grew up in the Midwest. I live in the Midwest, too. So you'll have to be more specific about the state comes in and does that. So tell me about that. What do you mean?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
So big tents over the whole area. They excavate it out, and everything just is gone, and then they continue to build the road.
Okay. Well, wait. How do you know that these were giants that they were discovering in the road?
Well, I don't know if it's giants that they're discovering, but it seems very odd that they would do this. And so, you know, you have this quote from Lincoln. He talked about giants under the mounds. And, yeah, that's what I want to talk to Ann about, to see, is there like a pre-ancient, like, 10,000 BC civilization that lived here that buried themselves and they were huge?
Well, okay. So let's talk about giants. I find this something very interesting. And there was a guy named Glenn Kimball who passed on many years ago who was a regular on Coast to Coast and a very dear man. And he used to send me books, even if we weren't going to be on the air together, he would send me a book. And so what you're talking about is the idea of these giant burial grounds, and when we say that, these mounds that appear in the Midwest that supposedly contain the skeletons of giants, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I've never heard of this idea of they keep discovering them and the state comes in and covers that up. Let's take that off the table because I've lived in Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, spent a lot of time in Wisconsin, living in Kansas now. Never heard of that. And I would love to if somebody is working road crew somewhere and they know about that, I'm in. But I do think...
I have no first-hand knowledge that
right.
Midwest rumor.
Right, but now here's the question that's interesting. Was there is it possible that there was a pituitary problem that ran rampant at a time when men were shorter? Like the average height of the average American male has gone up, even in the last 200 years. And so was there a time when...
In place with arrowheads and powders.
Well, yeah, but let me get back to that. So I think if you wanted if the idea was you wanted me to reflect on what I had learned on Coast to Coast, this is one of those things, and we'll leave it just for that much, that there is a relationship, there is a belief that there were people that grew because the average person was much smaller, that anybody that grew to a height above 6'5" or 7 foot was considered a giant, and they would have looked much more like what we would consider to be giants. And they would have been considered fierce, they would have been elevated, they would have been celebrated, and maybe that accounts for the reputation for giants in the Midwest. I'm not saying it's a perfect theory, I'm not saying it's the only one, but that's all I got to give you for now. But it could be that you are right, at least in that sense, that in New England, they have found in these mounds, specifically in New England, I don't know about the Midwest, that there were very large people, they were under 8 foot, so let's not think about giants in terms of like Game of Thrones or something, but they were like tall basketball players today, and that they would have been in a bigger contrast, though, because the average male would have been smaller. But there is archaeological evidence to support, 7'10" or 7.5 feet tall in terms of the teeth and jaws and the size of the skulls that have been found. That's all I got for you. But interesting, I'm glad you brought it up. I don't think Ann would have had a comment on it anyway, so I think I would have been giving you the same answer right then. All right, so it wouldn't be open lines, and we didn't talk to Walt in Allentown, who's been on hold for almost an hour. Walt?
Ian, great to talk to you. I'm glad you're back coming for George so soon. I expected you have to wait over a month, but I'm glad I'm talking to you again. So
you're kind. Well, and for the people who think that you have a special number that you can use or call in, I just was stressing the fact that you've been on hold for a long time, and you called early, and you were waiting.
To my fellow callers, my only, if you want to get on, call early and call often.
There you go. All right, so it's open lines, Walt. Have at it.
Well, I'm intrigued with your salutation line, Deus Te Amat.
Yes.
And if I was doing a show, my salutation line, as you might expect, would be a good 8.
Okay, I can accept that. They're not mutually exclusive ideas.
To me, Ian, when you say Deus, people would obviously assume that you're talking about Yahweh Jehovah, the God of the Bible. But to me, all of the gods, whether it's Yahweh Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Brahman, the Hindu, they're all anthropomorphisms. They were all created in our image. If you read the Bible, how could you possibly believe that Yahweh Jehovah is real when he's a hypocritical ogre? He says, "Thou shalt not kill," and yet his solution to everything is mass murder, whether it's the Great Flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, the venerable Passover tale where he sends the angel of death down to kill the firstborn. And even after the Israelites come out of the desert to 40 years of wandering and they come into the promised land, Yahweh Jehovah says that they can kill and enslave the native inhabitants, the Canaanites.
So, Ian, how could I possibly believe in the reality of Yahweh Jehovah?
Well, so you've got a bunch of different concepts going, and you've kind of put them in a melange. So let's separate out some of them. First of all, Buddha is not a god. So whereas he is an enlightened one, he is not any sort of anthropomorphized deity or anything. So you've locked Buddha into that. Let's go back to the divine. So there's a big difference between the divine and theology. And theology is always words about God. And our theology is written by us from the perspective of human frailties. So when we look at the history of theology, we also look at the history of our humanness. They're inextricably linked. So when you talk about mass murder, that God is a mass murderer, what we would call that is theodicy. It is the pursuit of God, essentially, in the course of tragedy. Where does God appear? That's theodicy. It's not odyssey as in the other word, but another version of that. So what you are linking is you're supposing that in these stories, when we talk about power grabs, and we use God as a way of justifying why we get to claim an area. It's not any different than it was in the United States, right? I mean, you don't have to go back to the Bible. Just deal with our history. You live in Pennsylvania. There was this idea of manifest destiny. This was our right to claim this land. That the United States was going to be a shining city on a hill, a beacon. And so, again, we used the justification of we're doing this in the name of God or Jesus, and that's why we get to kill all these people and move them off their land and claim it. So it's a go-to, it's a fallback. People use it all the time. They still use it in politics to justify why they get to do something. So if it's true for us now, and it was true for the ancients, why are you blaming it on God?
Well, it's obvious that God is, all right, God is the excuse that we use, but God is obviously manufactured in our imagination.
No, that's the difference. The God that justifies our horribleness is manufactured in our imagination. But that doesn't mean there's not a divine. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why the commandment exists about us not taking the Lord's name in vain, is we do that all the time. It has nothing to do with swearing. It has to do with the idea of appropriating God to justify why we get something, why we get to invoke power over somebody else, why we get to use it as sort of a magical thinking. And that happens all the time. And if they don't have God, they invent another reason why they get to take your water, your gold, your oil, your land, your people, whatever. And it's not just here. It's all over the world. But that doesn't make it God's fault, right?
Well, then it's not Satan's fault either, right?
Didn't say it was. And I think this is the interesting thing, is when we go back and forth, and there is that type of discussion that goes on in the Bible itself, which Jew eschew, as to whether or not everything is God, or is it God does the good stuff and Satan does the bad stuff. And both arguments get made. In fact, it's one of the reasons why the Lord's Prayer is so interesting, because it seems to reflect a much older theology that God is responsible for everything, and not just the good stuff. So we'll leave that there for now, but I hope that's informative and gives you something to chew on until I'm on again. And thanks for calling. Let me go to Johnny, who's in Salem, New Hampshire, on Coast to Coast AM. Johnny?
Hey, how you doing? It's great to talk to you, Ian.
You too. Open lines. Where are you going to take us?
Well, several months back, we had a quick discussion on open lines about America's Stonehenge, Mystery Hill, whether it was real or what were the origins of it. And we weren't really sure, so I checked with our local historian, and he directed me to this book called The Ruins of Great Ireland, the ruins of Great Ireland in New
I want you to hang on to that right. I'm going to put you on hold because we're not going to get a complete answer in before the break. But if you will hold for the break, I will come back to what you found, and you can share that with everybody, and then we'll get to everybody, too. And it doesn't have to be on the topic of ancient tombs or lost cities, although that's a cool one and almost inexhaustible. Open Lines is for everybody. Where are you going to take us? Coming up next on Coast to Coast AM, this is Ian Punnett.
KFI, news on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
I'm Andrew Caravella from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. People are reacting differently to LA's new COVID-19 rule. Starting Monday, anyone going into most public places, including businesses, will have to show proof of full COVID vaccination. Some people say the rule will make them feel secure, but this restaurant worker in Highland Park says she doesn't feel it's fair to have to enforce it.
We don't have any security. We don't have any, if we get customers on a regular basis complaining about a price, about like any certain little thing, now letting them enter is going to be even worse.
LA says it will start enforcing the new rule on the 29th. A second grand jury has been impaneled in an investigation being done in New York into former President Trump and his company. The first grand jury's time to serve had expired. KFI weather, fog throughout the morning with low visibility. The afternoon will clear up with highs in the 70s and low 80s. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Andrew Caravella.
Problems in Ontario on the westbound side of the 60 between Grove and Euclid. You already had Caltrans working the area, and now there's a crash as well. All lanes are stopped. You're jammed up as you approach Grove. Downtown LA, the 110 north down to 3rd Street. That still has only the left lane open. You're back up from 5th Street. Also downtown, the 101 north and south shut down due to Caltrans work. Northbound side closed from the 5 to 4th Street until around 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Southbound side closed from the 10 to the 5 until around 6 a.m. Sunday. Take the 5 for 110 instead. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Robert DeBucky.
At Sit and Sleep, we know that people are experts at all kinds of things, except one, how to shop for the right mattress.
Right, Dad. Shopping for a mattress isn't something you do every day, or even every 8 years.
That's why Sit and Sleep has mattress experts with an average of 10 years experience, and bed match technology that scientifically recommends just the right mattress for you.
So for expert advice, trust your sleep to Sit and Sleep.
You know, Drew, I'm an expert at other things.
Like what?
Screaming free!
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. What does solar mean for your future? Well, that depends on whether your solar is Sunlux Solar. Sunlux Solar means you've unshackled your home from the rising cost of electricity. Sunlux Solar means uninterrupted power during blackouts or natural disasters. It means no more dependence on gasoline because your home fuels your car. Sunlux Solar means saving tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the system. I design homes. I know just how much is riding on your solar. That's why I partner with Sunlux, because Sunlux is solar done right. The most comprehensive warranty in the industry, 5-star customer service, critical partnerships with industry leaders like Tesla and LG. With Sunlux, it's a partnership for your home's future, and that future is just a click away at sunlux.com. That's sunlux.com. CSLB 1008374.
Want the best possible price on your next car? Download the Roto app. That's R-O-D-O. Roto lets you browse thousands of vehicles from local dealers right from your phone and even offers contact-free delivery. And with Roto, there's never any haggling. The price you see is pre-negotiated and already includes every available discount. There's no hidden fees and no surprises. Just 100% transparent pricing. So for an easy car buying experience, download the Roto app now or check out roto.com. That's RODO.com.
We're all athletes.
Past
and present.
With something in common.
We fought cancer. Stage 4 breast cancer.
Testicular cancer.
Leukemia.
And prostate cancer. Millions of Americans have put off life-saving screenings.
Get back to your doctor.
Your health.
Your choice. Providence, Cedars-Sinai, UCLA Health, Dignity Health, and Tech Medicine of USC are all committed to making LA better together. Go to bettertogether.health to learn more.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions, and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
Are you still driving around with that check engine light on? AMCO will read and report the trouble code.